Bears fans? Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Shea Norling in the building. The Super Bowl has come and gone. It was an absolute stomp out. And I'm just talking about for Drake. The game itself was also pretty bad, but outside of that...
who got their ass beat worse, Drake or the Chiefs?
Drake, because Kendrick won't let up. There's a scene, and it's the only thing that popped into my mind every time, like when Kendrick looks into the camera and goes like, hey, Drake. Yeah, there's a scene in the newsroom where like, oh boy's going at this one guy, and the lady on the mic's just like, stop hitting him. Leave him alone. Yeah. Stop hitting. That was me to Kendrick last night. Just stop. Leave. It's over. He's dead. But I had an interesting thought as a Bears fan, as somebody who does the Bears podcast. Yesterday, watching that Super Bowl, I want to talk about what the Chicago Bears can learn from what we have seen in these recent Super Bowls and why you might not want to make this mistake in the offseason. We'll talk about that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We also got to let you guys know all about Mitch Lyons because he has become a amazing sponsor for this podcast, and I'm excited to let you know about him as a partner. That is Mitch Lyons Wealth. Mitch Lyons is a former NFL player, and he's got the expert in protecting your nest egg and optimizing your income. Go to MitchLyons.com, MitchLyonsWealth.com, Mitch Lyons Wealth, WEALTH, Wealth.com. Your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. All right, Shay. So yesterday's game, I saw the Eagles defense absolutely abuse arguably one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, wow, yet again, we're talking about a Super Bowl where the defense matters more than what the offense is able to do. The two best teams in the league were the two best defenses in the league. You look at last season's Super Bowl. San Francisco, Kansas City, two best defenses in the league. Season before that, Kansas City, Philly again, two best defenses in the league. And not just defenses, but defensive lines. And I know we're so go get the O-line fixed, get the O-line right. Make sure you got the interior. Make sure you've got all these guys. Spend all the money that you can on the offensive line. But the mistake that I don't want to see the Chicago Bears make is neglecting the other side of the ball. And I know that we've gotten to this point where we're like, we're tired of seeing good defenses. Defense still wins championships. If you go to the Super Bowl before that, you look at that Bengals Super Bowl, it's Aaron Donald stopping the final play. I love the investment in the offensive side of the ball, but we cannot get in this mindset that you have to go all offense because none of those teams represent the Super Bowl usually.
Have I not been doing this podcast with you for the past month and a half? Have I not been? Welcome aboard. Finally, somebody's on my side of this. I feel like I've been in crazy town because I've been saying Mason Graham, the prayer circle is operating. Michigan defensive tackle. Yeah. We're getting him at 10. I've been the guy begging for an edge rusher since last season.
Yeah, you did.
I've been the guy begging for defensive line help.
You're the Jared Verse guy.
And everybody keeps telling me about how this offensive line is so terrible and awful and it has to be fixed. And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Exactly.
But I have been screaming for anyone who will listen that the Bears had 0 players in the top 30 in pressures on their defensive line. You can't operate that way. It's not possible. You can't win football games like that. And Eagles yesterday, look, Jalen Hurts won MVP. He shouldn't have, in my eyes. I would have given it to one of 11 players on that defense because
Cooper DeJean, rookie MVP.
Josh Sweat or Milton Williams would have been my choice. But look, man, anytime your defense creates a short field twice with turnovers, Zach Bond, his interception, and then the Milton Williams strip sack, leads directly to points for the offense. One situation, it ended in a field goal. The other was a touchdown for the Eagles. That's 10 points on the board by the defense. Then you get the interception return. That's another 7 points. 17 of 40 points, almost half created by your defense.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from Jalen Hurts, who was spectacular in the game.
Hold out.
But I'm making the point, the Eagles defense was the best unit in football all year.
Yeah.
Was the best unit on the field yesterday. Jalen Carter has been a revelation up front with Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, whoever you want to pick out. Zach Bond, when he does rush and when he doesn't and he plays in coverage, he can pick the ball off. Their defense is astounding. And it starts up front in the trenches.
Yes.
And on the offensive side of the ball, it starts up front in the trenches.
Yeah.
And the lesson I pray Ryan Poles learned is you have to start in the trenches. Both sides of the ball. We've done everything else. You've brought in the receivers. You paid the tight end.
Literally nothing else.
You got the quarterback.
And
You've built a wonderful secondary. You paid a running back. Okay, it's time.
Yeah.
And I would use the 10th pick, whether it's a defensive tackle and Mason Graham does fall in the prayer circle successful, or if you want to pick an edge rusher. But I would use the 10th pick on defense. 100%.
I'll say this, and it's because of the Myles Garrett conversation that came up, and I'm like, I'd love for Ryan Poles to pick up the phone and figure out what the price would be. The Micah Parsons conversation started this weekend that there's talks of trading him, which always happens around this time in Dallas, and then they pay him some absorbent amount of money, and we go, how the heck did they figure out how to do that? I would pick up the phone and call and see what the price is. If I'm in the mindset of picking up the phone to see what the price is for a Myles Garrett or a Micah Parsons or Max Crosby, whoever it may be, I'm in the market to pick up the phone and say, what's it going to take for me to move up high enough to get Abdul Carter? If you believe that you have a game-changing pass rusher who could be the next Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, name the guy, I am willing to pay whatever it takes to get that guy, especially knowing I have to pay him less money than I'll have to pay any of them. And I think that we've gotten so focused on fix the offensive line, we'll find a lineman in the second or third round, which, listen, realistically speaking, Bears history says we will. There will be somebody there.
Prince Umamielen, he's going to be available with one of your second-round picks. He's out of Ole Miss. He's an edge rusher. He's a really good player.
Yes. He's not Abdul Carter.
No, of course not. But
and that's my thing. You're already in the mindset, if you're picking up that phone for Myles Garrett or one of those guys, to say, I want to go get the best guy that there is.
Look, my fear with Abdul Carter, if you're trading up to get him, you're going to number one.
Oh, you think he could be the number one pick in this draft?
Yeah.
Oof.
Based on the Titans' comments about wanting a generational talent, it leaves Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. And if you look at the betting odds, Abdul Carter has become one of the top guys to go number one in this draft. If you want to say we could trade to 5
that's
and
take where I was thinking.
Take Mason Graham, I'm in.
Yeah.
100% I'm in. But yeah, it just the Eagles have shown a defensive line that can get home without blitzing. It's the same thing the New York Giants did to Tom Brady twice. Yeah. If you can build that, you're going to go very, very far in this league.
It's going to be exciting, man. I think this is a opportunity that the Bears have to go big or go home, and I think you got to take it. There's going to be some names at the top of this draft, and I have been the guy say, go get Will Campbell. I have been, but watching that Super Bowl yesterday, it's just like, dude, every Super Bowl team is always the best defensive team. There is not a team that has won the Super Bowl in the last 10 years. I shouldn't say that. The Chiefs technically did win that first one just by blowing the doors off of people, but they also didn't allow a lot of points either. You have to have that. And I think people got in that mindset and were like, oh, if we just put up more points, that's all we got to do offensively. Tell that to Joe Burrow, who lost how many games this season by 1 score because the defense was nothing. He couldn't even get in the playoffs. He put up 50 and couldn't win a game to get in the playoffs. Like it's so much like we've gotten in this offensive world. I still live in a world where defense wins championships. And I think the Bears are one of the best teams to take advantage of that this offseason.
Yeah, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Part of hiring Ben Johnson is getting a guy who will take some pressure off of your offensive line.
Yeah.
You don't need to just one-on-one matchup everything and have like a dude at every position on the O-line winning every matchup. Would it help? Yeah, of course. It'd be tremendous. But building that takes time. And having Ben Johnson, the hope, I think, is that you can scheme this up in a way similar to what the Niners have done, where they don't have all pros at 5 positions on the O-line.
No.
They have an all pro at 1 position on the O-line. And the rest is, frankly, kind of mid. But because you have Kyle Shanahan and you can use some of the pre-snap motion and you can disguise things and you can sequence your plays really effectively and make things look different than what they actually are, you negate some of that deficiency on the O-line. I think that's why you bring in a guy like Ben Johnson. Now, I have the caveat. If you don't go out this free agency and hit a couple home runs on the O-line, then I'm more intrigued and like, okay, we're going to get Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks Jr. with the 10th pick, and we're going to move. But I'm living in a world where I think you will get one of, if not both, Drew Dalman and Trey Smith. The reality for the Falcons, they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins, and that's going to just kill them in terms of being able to retain or sign new players this offseason. Drew Dalman's gone. He's a cap casualty. They can't afford him. There's no reason the Bears don't get him. They need a center. He's 26. He's good. He'll be expensive, but he's available, and you have the cap space.
Yeah.
Get him. Trey Smith, if the Chiefs do let him walk and they don't get super creative and find a way to pay him, then get him. And if you get both those guys, there's no world that I'm using the 10th pick on an offensive lineman. I'm getting a defensive lineman, period.
It's so funny because it's just you don't think about how the defense like I think about last night. You don't think about how the defense makes offensive life so easy.
Yeah.
The chances that Sirianni was willing to take because he knew the Chiefs couldn't move the football. We all pay attention to the brotherly shove, right? 4th and 1, they're going to brotherly shove it. When I saw him call for them to go for it on 4th and 4, I was like, I'm sorry, is he playing the Kansas City Chiefs right now or the Chicago Bears? What kind of confidence is this? Versus, by the way, a really good defense. They didn't play their best yesterday, by far, but that's still probably the 2nd or 3rd best defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
And on the first play of the game, and this is why you can't ignore one side of the trenches, but why I think that this offseason the Bears have to focus on getting blue chip pieces at least on one side of the trenches. And if that happens on the defensive side, let it be that. When I saw, I think it was 2nd play of the game, Chris Jones rushed and Philly center, why can't I think of his name?
Cam Jurgens.
Absolutely stood him up. I haven't seen somebody stand up, Chris Jones. I mean, stood him up. Chris Jones could not move. He was stuck.
He was hurting, man.
I was like, oh, this is going to be a long night. This is not going to go the way that it went 2 years ago. And I was rooting for the Chiefs to win. I wanted to see history. But it's so important to me for the Bears this offseason to just make sure that even thinking in that mindset, right? Make Ben Johnson's life easier. You know what made Mitch look good in 2018? Khalil Mack letting him start at the 40. because you just got another strip sack turnover.
Being able to pressure opposing quarterbacks is probably the 2nd most important thing behind having a quarterback who can play really well at a high level in this league. I don't think you can put a price on it. And for me, it's been the number one concern. It was the number one concern for me last offseason. It's once again the number one concern for me this offseason.
Yeah.
And I know people want a new left tackle. I don't think you're getting one. Even if you're like,
I think you're going guard probably.
Even if you look at Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell, that's 2 guys that if you ask any scout or if you look at any of the reporting or any of the write-ups on these players, they don't project at tackle. They project at guard in the NFL. They're undersized guys. It's everywhere you look. The top tackles in this draft project as guards. So the idea you're just going to get a new left tackle, a premium left tackle, and flip Braxton Jones out, you're not.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to replace Darnell Wright. I think you can live with your tackles. Live well, maybe. We'll see. But you can live. You have to address the interior of that line.
Yeah.
And I think you're primed to do it in free agency, at least at center and right guard, if you take care of business. Left guard might be a work in progress, but we'll figure out how they want to do it. Second round pick, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Bang. That's in the second round, by the way. You're not taking a left guard at 10 overall.
No.
10 overall, that's where I'm getting my Mason Graham. That's where I'm getting an edge rusher. That's where I'm finding a defensive player that's impact, blue chip, let's go. And then with my pick in the, 37 and 41, I'm using one of those on either an edge rusher again, Mielen potentially, or Tyler Booker. And that's the way I'd like to
those positions.
And look, it's early, but the point I'm making is this offseason doesn't need to be one where you're like, we're going to get 5 new offensive linemen and also 3 new depth offensive linemen, and offensive line's all we're going to worry about.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll start talking. Look, it's the ESPN 1000 app, ladies and gentlemen. Tap in with it.
I'll tell you, sometimes my phone just out of nowhere will play the ESPN without it even open.
It was not open.
It's wild. Wild. But they know what I'm trying to listen to. I'll tell you that much. No, it's just I'm making the point. You don't need to get 10 O-linemen this offseason. You need to help both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Right O-lineman.
And at the top of the first round of the draft, I'm sorry, I feel like defense is the better way to go.
See, the only name that I think, and I will say the importance wise, right? I will take a top tier left tackle over a defensive end, because I do believe that the Chicago Bears logo is built on finding defensive ends. I think that's just something every team has their thing, right?
Sure.
We're good at finding running backs and defensive players. That is just who we are. Will Campbell to me is such an interesting one, because I keep hearing exactly what you said. He projects as a guard. He's undersized. He's coming out at the same weight that Trent Williams came out at. If we're talking about arm length, I guess maybe we can have a little bit of a conversation.
T-Rex arms,
little stubby, but so aggressive. And I do wonder if the aggression that he has now, that would project great at guard as well. I wonder if that overcomes some of the length inabilities, because he's also got great feet. He's got a great jab. Like, he does a lot of really good left tackle things, but the arms are a little tiny.
The short arm thing is a genuine concern for people when it comes to playing left tackle in the NFL. It's so hard, man. I think a lot of people, I don't want to say people don't recognize it, but it's just the reality of playing at a high level in this league, certainly at that position, when you're going to be lined up over the best pass rushers. It's so hard. And you have to be built like a alien, basically. The fact that he's a little short-armed, he projects more as an interior guy. That's not a don't draft him thing.
Yeah.
It's just, if I get to live in my world 10, and Mason Graham's available at 10, there's no planet I'm not taking him.
Well, I think the concern would be, if he is projecting as that, are you drafting a left guard at 10?
Which
I wouldn't want to see that. I can get guards in the second round. You can get guards in the third round. You know what I mean? Like, that's usually where you find your guards.
The Colts took Quentin Nelson, third?
Yes.
As a guard. And he revitalized their offensive line. He was a transformative player.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say you can't do it, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that Will Campbell is Quentin Nelson.
I was going to say he better be Quentin Nelson if you're going to do it. That's kind of what it comes down to. The offseason is finally here. It kind of, as the season ended yesterday with the Chiefs getting their heads kicked in and Philadelphia hoisting a second Lombardi trophy. What was your takeaway from the Super Bowl overall?
I've been a guy that was quicker to embrace that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the greatest player we've ever seen. Last night was the first moment of it was my realization of how far he still has left to go to accomplish it. And it was kind of fitting that Brady was on the call for the Super Bowl and did all the media availability in the lead up. And he talked about, for getting into the league, he won 3 in 5 years. And you go, this is
what we do.
This is it. This is what it is. And then you go 10 years without one. and you get an appreciation for how difficult it is. And then he wins 4 more. And then listening to him on the call when Burkhart's making fun of him, you're no stranger to slow starts. And Brady's like, yeah, KB, in my first 9 Super Bowls. And you're like, did he just say first 9?
You know what kills me is when he goes, are we going to bring this up? Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Right. No, I just watching it, I'm like, God, to have a performance like Mahomes had yesterday, the taillights of Tom Brady just peeled off further into the darkness.
It's so funny, dog. The line between like you could be the greatest player we've ever seen in our lives, and if he had won that Super Bowl, I would be sitting here telling you he is the GOAT. We've never seen anybody win 3 straight Super Bowls, and Patrick
100%.
Mahomes. I would have been sitting here, and for everybody who was like, "Well, do rings matter?" Yeah, they do matter, but we also called Michael Jordan the GOAT after he three-peated, and there were people that had a lot more rings than he did.
Well, in the
Like it's about how hard it is to do that. It's about 3 long, grueling seasons, and you won all of them. Like especially in the NFL, it's 3 times harder because of how many moving pieces there are. So I would have been telling you Pat Mahomes is the GOAT if he had won that.
Me too.
With him losing it though,
he moved further away.
It was like, oh, that's going to be a while. Now it is rings.
It's not just that he lost it, it's the way he lost it, where he was bad. It wasn't like the team was just, and they weren't good by any stretch. The offensive line was getting mollywopped, but Mahomes was making bizarre decisions.
Yeah.
The throw to Cooper DeJean was awful.
What was he throwing to?
The Zach Bond throw was awful. And he had, I saw this stat this morning, and I know, big nerd guy, analytics, but EPA per play in the first half for Mahomes was -1 point something. It was 10th worst among all games since 2018. It's down there with the Sam Darnold Ghosts game. There's a couple Davis Mills games that are down there with it.
There's got to be a good Bears one in there, right?
One of the 10 worst quarterback halves since 2018. Not Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All games.
Yeah.
And like Tom Brady never did that. You can say what you want about Tom Brady. Well, they won 13-3, and he didn't need to score that much. His defense did it all.
Yeah.
1-2. I'm sorry. The second time he only scored 13 points. Help me out. Who'd he beat to get to that game?
That was
played the Rams in the Super Bowl, but who did he have to beat to get to that game?
Why am I blanking on this?
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yes.
Brady beat Patrick Mahomes to get to that Super Bowl where he only scored 13 points, which is held against him in the conversation by people who are putting Mahomes ahead of him. And then beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
That's what was throwing me off. I'm like, he was on the Bucs. Wait a minute.
So
I forgot Brady's Patriot year.
Dude, I swear, like Mahomes and the Chiefs broke our brains
Yeah.
and forced us to move on from what Brady and the Patriots accomplished
Yes.
quicker than anticipated. And now that we're 5, 6, 7 years away from it and look back more, and then to hear Brady reflect on it yesterday, and then to hear some of the Brady stats, it was eye-opening for me again to be like, whoa, Mahomes has the stat I keep coming back to is Brady played in 10 Super Bowls. In all 10 of them, he left the field in the final quarter with the lead.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Mahomes has been blown out twice in 5. Brady in 10 left the field in the final quarter with the lead 10 out of 10 times. That's insane.
It shows you the level that you have to get to be that guy. And the story of Brady is the tale of 2 Bradys, right? There is the one where it is, we're winning Super Bowls because of the defense. We're winning Super Bowls because he's turning around. He's not making mistakes. But then you get to those, like when he starts winning again, and you just go, oh, he's the greatest thing we've ever seen in our life. The Atlanta Super Bowl is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I remember going to halftime and looking at my dad and saying, Dad, this ain't over. 24-3. My dad's like, no, they're done. They're cooked. I was like, it's Tom Brady. I'm never going to count him out. And just watching him systematically, slowly just knife jab everything the Atlanta defense tried to throw at him. Like, we've had those moments out of Mahomes, and yesterday was the anomaly. But having a Super Bowl like that, it did just kind of separate. It was like, no, you almost had it. Now you got to start climbing the mountain again. And now I do think it comes back to rings. Now I do think for that GOAT status to be achieved,
you got to get 7.
You got to get 7.
And
now,
he can. I'm not going to say he can't.
Talent-wise, Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Tom Brady. But I also say talent-wise, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback we've seen.
Yeah, I still kind of think Mahomes is the best I've ever watched. When it's right, it's unbelievable. This year, he just didn't play well. Really, almost at any point all season. And I kept saying it, and I said they're going to get to the Super Bowl. They'll probably win. But watching them is a chore. And it was. And then finally in the Super Bowl, dumb me, the first time all year, I was like, okay, I'll bet the Chiefs here. Was the moment that the wheels just came the fuck off. And I'm like, of course it is.
Listen, it also tells you, and I think this is under talked about, and we focus so much on Patrick Mahomes. Hey, even Patrick Mahomes needs an offensive line, at least the interior. They got destroyed yesterday.
I'll say
they got destroyed yesterday. Did the Trey Smith stock drop for you at all yesterday?
People keep saying how horrible he was. He drew the toughest matchup of all of them with Jalen Carter. And he did the best job of all of them.
Yeah.
The whole line was bad. But when you've got like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, I don't think are the problems. Juwan Taylor is awful. Like I can't say this enough. That dude sucks. They paid him so much money. He's false starting every play.
Yeah.
He gets blown the fuck off the football. They've got Joe Tooney, a guard, playing left tackle by necessity. He's getting blown the fuck up. He's pushed into Mahomes on the Zach Bond interception. Left guard was weak. Like, I thought Trey Smith is taking some strays because the whole line was so bad.
Because of his free agency. And he's the name that's up.
Free agent stock. Everybody's talking about him, all pro, and he's catching strays. He held Jalen Carter. Not going to kill you for holding Jalen Carter. When your assignment is Jalen Carter and you get one-on-one with him, holding him is about the only chance you have. So I was more okay with it. It just the tackles were, and that was the story all season. The tackles were horrible all year.
Yeah, it was yesterday. I just watched and I was like, oh, look at that. The GOAT even needs an offensive line. Who knew? It's hard to play football when you've got Jalen Carter breathing down your neck. And when he did the patented Caleb Williams little spin, try and get out, roll to the right, throw, pick. I was like, oh, yeah, football's hard, guys. Dude, when you've got a defensive end in your lap 4 seconds, almost immediately.
The Milton Williams strip sack, Mahomes got cracked in half. I have never seen his body fold up that way. The fact he even got up off the field, I was like, dude, if that were me, I'd be dead. I would have disintegrated, like physically.
Thanos.
It would have been, it would have been the Thanos snap, or like Voldemort at the end of the last Harry Potter movie, just disintegrating into the air. I can't believe Mahomes got up. I'm like, stay down, bro. The game's over. Yeah. Just you're hurt. Get out. All good.
It was such a. There was so many people at the Super Bowl party that I went to just sitting there going, I can't believe what we're watching right now. And I loved it because he came in so and I wanted the Chiefs to win. Did you see the suit he's walking in?
Eagle green
suit, came in cocky, just knowing we're three-peating, baby. I love the cockiness, but you brought what happened on yourself. You think Sirianni didn't have that plan as he's in the pregame meeting?
You talk about a house of horrors, bro. I mean, they walked. I had a feeling. So I bet the Chiefs, and when the game was starting, like the pregame stuff, they're coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah,
I had a feeling even before kickoff. I'm like, I'm on the wrong side here. The Chiefs walked out of the tunnel to the loudest chorus of boos I have ever heard at a Super Bowl. The Chiefs come out to Bradley Cooper doing EAGLES Eagles. The place is going nuts.
Yeah.
Like it was all Eagles fans in the building. And then you get Taylor Swift getting mercilessly booed by the fans when she goes on the Jumbotron to the point that she's like, what is going on here?
She's never even heard these noises.
The Chiefs are getting booed. And I'm like, this has to be the biggest nightmare scenario the Chiefs could have drawn up. They're in a hostile environment for the Super Bowl where even Taylor Swift, the mascot, is getting booed.
Yeah.
and they're getting their ass kicked.
It got bad quick. It got bad real quick.
Well, 10-0. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Mahomes fine. He'd been down 10 points before. And then he threw the pick six, and I'm like, oh, this is over.
There was a part of me where I was like, and see, I think this is the thing too. Brady has set such a standard to get back on Brady. Like, there was a part of me where I was like, can he Brady this? Second half, can Mahomes be that guy where he Brady's this thing and brings the team back? Now, Brady did have a defense that only allowed 3 points the rest of the game.
Yeah,
and that might help.
Dante Hightower strip sack.
If the Chiefs defense had woken up a little bit, we might be having a different conversation. But you just saw it in the second half, and it was just like, oh, they're done.
There was never a point where I felt like it was like once at 10-0, it would have just been standard Mahomes.
Yeah,
always down 10 in the Super Bowl, finds a way to win. Once it was 17, there was never a moment where I earnestly felt like he had a Tom Brady opportunity in him. Dude, they couldn't move the football
at all.
The Eagles had more yards than points at halftime, or more points than Chiefs yards at halftime. They were, even in the Falcons Super Bowl, Patriots-Falcons 28-3, right? Like, it's the historic comeback. The Patriots were moving the football. They just had drives end on fourth downs or turnovers or missed kicks. Gostkowski's piping the extra point off the upright. And it, like, the Chiefs couldn't do anything. They could do nothing.
Yesterday was a shot. When I knew it was over was when D-Hop dropped a football.
Yeah.
I was sitting there going, I think D-Hop has like 10 drops in his entire career. I said that out loud. One of the Eagles fans from the back was like, got 11 now. I was like, great line. Great line. I love it. I love it. I couldn't believe it though. I was like, DeAndre Hopkins just dropped the football. We saw history here in one of the biggest games of all time.
The Eagles had the mandate of heaven. It is what it is.
The football gods were all in.
They had the mandate of heaven.
They were like, D-Hop, let it go. It's over.
It felt that way, man. You get pressure on more than half your opposing quarterback's drops without blitzing once. Yeah. Mandate of heaven.
And that's why, again, like the Bears conversation, you gotta build this defensive lineup because they feel unstoppable. Because now I don't know if they re-signed Josh Sweat. I would hope they would, but they feel fairly unstoppable because it doesn't seem like this is going to go away anytime soon.
And they have a GM who hits home runs in the draft just consistently. Yeah. I mean, their last 3 years, they've had 6 picks in the top 2 rounds. Every single one of those was used on a defensive player. Every one. When you ask me why, Shea, do you hate our offensive line and you want us to take all defensive players? It's what the best team in football did.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you need to. They also drafted their offensive line, though.
Yeah,
you got to fix that as well.
Of course,
you do have to fix that.
Both things have to be fixed, and they had a head start in doing it. But
what was
proof is in the pudding, man?
What was the feeling in white households at the return of the white DB yesterday? Full on return.
I'm not going to comment. I can't say
anything. You're not going to leave. It's okay. It's okay. Because I was sitting there going, wow, this is like seeing a dinosaur come back. This is Jurassic Park.
I'll tell you what one of my favorite follows tweeted. It was one of my Tyler I Am, formerly of Barstool, tweeted the only words that I think could express the return of the white defensive back on the pick six. Simply, of all months.
On that note, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to the show and love, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Shea Norling, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down, one love, and really, DeGene? Right now, that's like JJ Redick going off for 40 on Black History Month Day. Oh no, it was on MLK Day. It was on MLK Day. Y'all stay safe. Peace.